Let's try and make x the subject. So from here, in your mind, square both sides. So you would take the y down and then you square it. And then when you square this, it would just become what's inside the square root. It would just become this. So when you square both sides, it will then become this. Let's try and understand why. For example, if you look at square root of 9 and then you square it, it would just become 9. Now let's look at this here. Square root of 9. So if you start out with square root of 9 and then the square root of 9 is 3, and then when you square 3, it then becomes back to 9. So if you look at square root of 25 and then you square it, so square root of 25 is 5. But then when you come to square this, it would just become 25, back to what's inside the square root. So the point is that when you square both sides, what's left will be what's inside the square root, which will be this. So now you're trying to make x a subject. So from here you've got two layers. You've got two layers. 1, 2. So you want to get everything onto one layer. So in your mind, times both sides by the denominator. So take the y squared down, and then you times by this bubble here, x minus b. Close it off, and then on the right it will just become x plus a. So now keep an eye on x. You're trying to make x a subject. Let's break this up. So this times this times this. That would be y squared x, and then minus y squared b equals x plus a. So now you're trying to make x a subject. You've got 4 blocks here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're trying to get x on its own. So group all the x's on one side and all the rubbish on the other side. So for example, let's move this block to the other side here. And then later on we can move this x across to here. So that x can be on its own. So for example, from here, add this block to both sides. So when you add this block to both sides, the right hand side, well, let me just carry the whole thing down. And then you add this block. So that would be plus y squared b. And when you add this block on the left hand side, it would just become y squared x. So now you want to group all the x's on one side. You got this block here contains x. This block here contains x. So in your mind, take away x from both sides. So take away x from both sides. The left hand side will then become y squared x minus x. And then the right hand side will just become a plus y squared b. So now x exists in two places. So the trick is to factorize out the x. So x bracket y squared minus 1. Because let's just imagine we didn't know this. So x times what will give me this thing here? It must be y squared. You got a minus here. X times what will give me x? Must be a 1. So when you come to factorize this, it will then become this. Let's just leave this the same. So this would be a plus y squared b. Now you want to get x on its own. So now you've got one bubble times this bubble here. So to get x on its own, divide both sides by the right hand bubble here. So in your mind, divide by y squared minus 1. So take this whole thing down and then divide by this bubble here. Y squared minus 1 equals x. So this here is your final answer. Okay?